So we were talking earlier about burnout. Have you ever had a time in the course of your nonprofit career in particular that you felt like you were burned out, you felt like you had to step away, that you felt, I don't know,
Like I should
any
leave
time?
my job and move to Ghana? Yeah,
Yeah,
that has
that.
happened.
What was that about for you? I'm curious because I think a lot of times we think about burnout after it's happened, or we don't think about burnout actually. It happens sort of out of our control, and we worry about how do we recover from it. So I'm curious for you, when that happened, what were those elements? What were you feeling?
Yeah, and I mean, I should say, to be honest, there's more to the story than, oh, I was burned out and therefore I decided to leave. I felt a sense of personal calling there for sure, but also I was tired. I was weary. And one of the things that I came to understand was that was about how I was operating internally. Like, yes, there were deadlines and stressors within the context of my work and the work that I was trying to do in the world, but how I managed that and approached that had a lot to do with why I just felt like drained.
Hmm. Do you think this phenomenon of burnout is unique to sort of more purpose-driven jobs? Does it have something to do with the fact that we tend to work on very quote unquote purpose driven or social impact? I mean, is there a connection there, or is it like it could have been just I could have been a bank teller and I'm tired of counting money.
I think burnout has a lot to do with how much you're giving. So I do think that there may be a correlation because those of us in the social impact sector, we find our way to this work because we do care and we are passionate and we are willing to give above and beyond. Whereas, no offense to, people who make widgets, but okay, for 8 hours I'm making the widgets and then I peace out. And there's less emotional baggage and less sense of there's something really riding on the line here.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, because I've been doing, I have a decade or two on you in terms of doing this work, and I don't mean that in like a bragging way. It's just, but I think I wonder if burnout is a way of learning to manage yourself, learning to manage expectations, well, all of these things I've had to learn perhaps the hard way as I go along. But I think also I had an experience like you did where I took some time off in my late 20s, early 30s, like an extended period of time off. And but it's sort of figuring out how your head works, and I figured out a lot of stuff about myself, not easily sometimes during that period. But I haven't felt that sense of burnout. But I also, believe in taking breaks, and whether they're short breaks or long breaks or whatever the case may be. And by short breaks, I mean like a day or here, a day or two here. By long breaks, I mean like 2 or 3 weeks at a time, where you can kind of get away from it, focus on something else, and recharge.
Well, I'm curious when you decided to take your own sabbatical, like was it not because you felt burned out? Like what led to that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It wasn't because of burnout at all. It was more of like, hey, I want to shift my focus from working for other people to working on something that was important to me. And I had saved some money at the time, and I was like, well, let me do this for a few months. I can afford to do this. Let me go live somewhere more interesting than where I was, which was kind of rural Ohio. And let's Hudson wants to get on the action. And let me change my lifestyle. And it wasn't because I felt like, oh, I don't want to stop what I'm doing. It was like, and I realized in retrospect, it was really in retrospect, I didn't know it at the time. I wanted to make a professional inflection, and I wanted to pursue other other disciplines than what I had done.
I see. So you've actually had like the experience of being a nonprofit ED, which to me epitomizes the situation in which one would run into burnout. So
I think that, yeah, I think it can happen to anyone, right? And I think one of the things I've noticed, here's a couple of things I've noticed, right? Is I think for a lot of younger people, they come in with, I don't want to say unrealistic expectations, but big expectations about how much agency one has to kind of change the world. And when you run into barriers and you realize how difficult it can be, that can be really like mentally taxing and discouraging. And you're like, well, why? And I think lead to a sense of burnout. I think with regard to being an executive director, it's this weird role where you can't really complain to your board and you can't really or shouldn't complain to your staff. And so you're in this kind of in between position with a lot of responsibility, but not a lot of outlet to process what's going on and the stressors that might be causing you. And one of the more I don't know, better things I did for myself early on was to get a group of other EDs in sort of similar organizations together on an informal basis. And we supported, for a couple of years, we all supported each other, sort of informally. We call it the cabal. And anyone could call, could call a meeting of the cabal, and for whatever reason, and it could be over the phone. We often did it over dinner, but it really taught me what I needed, how to show up for other people, how to ask for help on my own. It was a really formative experience that way. But again, being an executive director also has unique stressors that I think you need to find a support structure. And it can be hard to do because, again, you're in this in between place.
So wondering, because you have spent so many years consulting prior to us launching Foresight Collective, how you navigated like working through whether it was visioning or planning or other types of processes and engagements with nonprofit leaders who seemed visibly to be experiencing some form of burnout. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I have. I've seen a lot of folks, sort of have those impacts. And I think and again, I think we tend, because it can be sort of painful, we tend to jump to solution versus, I think part of the solution is going back, and this I realize can be some difficult to do, is going back and like, how did I arrive here? What were the circumstances that brought me to this place where I don't feel as compelled or compelled at all to kind of show up and do this work anymore, or do the work with the same kind of vigor that I had before? And I think it could be for different reasons, whether it's like, oh, I had unrealistic expectations, or just the fact that I'm in an environment that's not conducive to my growth. I've stopped growing. And I think one of the things I've been really fortunate for as being a founder of an organization, you kind of have this privilege to kind of, if you can get away with it, and I've gotten away with it for a while now, is you can keep evolving, and you can keep changing and evolving. What I'm doing now is very different than what I did 20 years ago. And what I'm doing with you is different than what I was doing 5 years ago. And that's kind of kept me in the game. And I think, that constant growth for me is really important. But I think when you hit a plateau and you feel like, oh, I'm just doing this work and it's hard work and I'm not getting paid as much as I feel like I should, why bother? When you came back from Ghana, what were you in a different mindset than you were when you left? And also, what do you attribute for the change in mindset, if so?
Back from Ghana, I wasn't one way. I had many things going on in my head, but I will say this, I had learned how to slow down and rest. Um, and that's probably the one thing I can thank malaria for. But to be honest, one of the things that made me nervous was coming back to this context and environment and not knowing like, oh, is it, when I'm back home, am I automatically going to be like, go, 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 again? And there was certainly a long period of transition and learning just what it meant to be back in Detroit, back here in the States. To stay grounded and but also to have a new identity to chart because I basically like pressed the reset button on a lot of things before I left. So yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know if
and
that was
maybe
the answer you were looking for or not.
no, I think it's a really good place and a good place. We're at our time, a good place to stop. But that idea, like you got to pace yourself in different kinds of ways, right? You got to take the time, and you can't go 100%. I just think I used to work 7 days a week and just push, 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 and I don't anymore, and I don't feel guilty about it. It's about longevity. And I think part of that is also pacing yourself, is finding something else to care about outside of work. I think when you only care about work, you're putting a lot of things in one basket. And
Yes.
one of those things can be a delightful animal. And we'll end on this. This is Hudson. This is one of the things I care about that helps keep me sane. So on that note, say goodbye, Hudson. Bye, everybody. We'll pick it up next time.